and welcome to your weekly segment where you learn English from your favorite Australian English professor, Jacob Polo. That's me. Today I'm not only going to be your English professor. Today I'm going to be your moral and ethics philosopher. Now being a moral and ethics philosopher is something that is a lot deeper than your average thought. These are things that we work on. These are philosophies and things that will better the world. We understand things at a deeper, more conscious, more intelligent, and a smarter level than the average person. Only because we are this way and we train this way and we learn from the past, we can do this. It's definitely a level of consciousness to be grateful for those who have walked before you and do things for the people that are walking beside you and the future. So each step that you take makes the world a better place because you were in it, because you've chosen this life that is one of service, one of understanding and betterment, not only for yourself. And that is what we're going to talk about today, is self, selfish, and selfless. Now, I'll explain this to you in a much easier way to understand. Because moral philosophy and ethics are a very lost thing in this world today, I think it's a very important thing to bring into the world. And if you've watched my Spiritual Sunday, you will have understood, and when you have the opportunity when I publish my books, you'll be able to read the story that led me to this path. It's an internal journey of self-discovery and self-betterment, but making sure that your self-betterment is not selfish, self-centered, and egoic, and that it's the betterment of you, the people around you, and the world at large, and that makes you successful. That is the only definition of success. You may be self-centered, selfish, and self-absorbed, and therefore you are not free or capable of doing these things, and thus you'll seek out external materialistic things, and that's what these things are: self-centered, self-absorbed, and selfish. They are people that measure themselves by the things that they have and can get. So that's the definition of charity with a return. That's not charity. You're doing business with manipulating people, actually. If you do a charitable thing and you have an expectation, and if you don't receive that expectation, then there's a punishment, or there's no more charitable thing. It's not charity. That's actually manipulation. So being selfless is giving without ever expecting anything in return. There's no limits to your giving because you do it selflessly. You give your time, which is your life. You give your wisdom, you give your knowledge, you give your skills, you give your materialistic thing, you give your money, you give your love, your compassion, you give the better side of yourself, where selfishness only gives the worst to others and takes the best from others. Now understand this, let me explain this to you. People who are selfish only like and befriend people who can give them what they don't have. And they don't like people because those people are showing them exactly what they don't have. So it's jealousy, it's envy, they get egoic, because if an ego is the only person that isn't consistent and cleanly loving, giving, and selfless. So if you're not selfless, then you're an ego slave. There's no way to run or hide, manipulate, he said, she said, they did, they didn't. There's no that. There is no justification for your actions or inactions, for your words or the lack of words. You are literally the scum of the earth because you have decided to be that and not the light. It's a to and fro thing. You cannot be one and be the other. You cannot be the other and be one. There's no, it's like in the universe, there's these certain laws. There's no such thing as darkness. There's no such thing as cold. And there's no such thing as bad. There's only the absence of light, the absence of heat, and the absence of good. So with those three elements as the perfect example of human choice and the universe is how it works, because your thought is what you guide yourself by, yet you don't know that your brain can't tell the difference between reality and what you tell it. So if your ego, as you're controlled by ego, your brain is your enemy. It lies to you, it deceives you, it controls you, you're a slave to it. If you can't do what you want to do, when you want to do it, you're a slave. And if you can't not do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it, you're a slave. If you're getting upset, offended, if you don't like someone, if you try to hurt people, if you do anything that is not pure crystal love and light and kindness and giving selflessly, you are, in fact, a bad person. There's no grey area. There is only one or the other. There is not, I'm going to be a good person, then a bad person because you did or didn't do that. You're a bad person, plain a good person, until it no longer serves you. And that's where the morals come into play. The philosophy of morals and ethics. Morals and ethics are the unwavering, internal conviction. It is your strength. It isn't what you can do or what you can get other people to do or what you can dominate people or try to scare people to do. It is what people will do for you without ever asking. People will selflessly do that because you're selfless, because you're not selfish. These are the things that we measure ourselves by. And I'm having a beautiful experience in my life of going from the bad place to the good place. And I measure that by the people around me and how they respond to me, and they don't react to me. And if they are reacting to me, I can sit there and look at why. I can selflessly analyze myself to know what happened. Of their selfishness? Is it an effect of their ego? And then I realize, what is the problem that this person is having? Is it a lack of something or too much of something? And is that something codependent from an ego? Because if I could change the way that they think and feel by simple giving of love, then that's a positive thing. If I could just by love. Or is it a monetary, selfish thing that they are trying to do? Is it a thing that I could, if I had more of? So just say this, a person likes you because you're rich. A person likes you because they can get something from you, out of you. Philosophical moral quandrum of ethics. You do good things not for the reward. You don't do good things for yourself or for others for what you will return. That going to heaven, not going to hell, is a moral quandrum which puts you in a position of you actually will go to hell. I'm not saying hell's real, I'm just using this as a philosophical example. Doing that will still send you to hell because you're doing something in spite of something, not because you're a good person. So you're still seeking a reward. You being a good person to others and yourself because you're a good person. You don't need a prompt, a reward, or any benefit. It's an internal moral, it's an internal status, it's an internal state of being. Now, people want to measure themselves as being better than others because they're external things. I have this, so I'm better. This is my job, because I'm better. This is my title, I have blah, 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 blah. But they're internally, morally, and philosophically poor and a bad person. Now, these people are the only people that will put you down, which will do these things because they are poor. They cannot sustain and maintain their goodness. And you'll see this with so many people who have a fake mask. You'll hear this a lot. People with fake masks, they have an image to uphold. But when they get close, they can't hold it up because they're weak. They can't sustain their lies. They can't sustain their evil. It will come through in their good mask, and the bad side, heard that before, will finally come out. And there's no way to ever justify this behavior, this way of being. There's only consciousness and enlightenment and learning the path of selflessness. These are why the greats are the greats. These are why the difference between reality and fiction, the difference between wisdom and knowledge. Like people, everybody doesn't like religious people. Why? Because they are like this. It's the wisdom or the knowledge. Not all religious people, don't get me wrong. But the people that go to church or go to these spiritual things, yet on a Monday, they're bad people. But in the saying that they're baptized, therefore they are religious, and thus far will go to heaven, it miscommunicates the actual truth of the reality, which is you will only can be and receive anything and be anything good by doing these things. The difference between wisdom is doing, and knowledge is knowing, but that's it. You don't do anything. The moral quandrum of this is quite intense and it's very deep, and I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to teach you in the best way that I can of how this all works, and I thought of a great way to do that in an English lesson, because like I told you, I'm a morals and ethics philosopher. I have a life program that I've developed, and I've been doing this for the last 20 years. So I'm going to break this down really simple. Self is a self-identification. It's what you identify yourself as and being as because of something else. It's not actually who you are. Who you are, and self who you are is an internal being of who you're being. Yourself is a selfishness. Myself, mine. Anything that has my, mine is ego. You're identified by that. People who retire, who work a long life and then retire, die very quickly because they lose their identification of self. People who are in relationships and no longer in relationships go through a world of pain, and so many commit suicide because their self-identity is gone. People who go through accidents, who are one way, are no longer that way, and they identify by that, go through depression, anxiety, PTSD, and even suicide because of their identity is no longer there. So you understand, you can do miracles for yourself. You're in here, what you think, believe, say, and do, don't think, don't say, don't believe, and don't do, is literally the external experience and manifestation of yourself physically and externally into the world with others. So if you have to understand that this is important. beyond any level that you'll ever do. And you can achieve miracles when you start going within, because you'll constantly go without. Now guys, I know this is sort of like, you're like, wow Jake, that was deep, and it's not my spiritual Sunday. Spiritual Sunday, my life program is tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Today, I felt it very important. My higher self, universe, God was sending me a message to talk about ethics and moral philosophy, and to give my take on it, and I teach, because that's all this is passing my story on, so that it may be the key that gets people out of the hellhole that they're in physically, because they're internally trapped. But I'm going to teach you English, okay? We covered self, which is identification. We covered selfish, which is self-centered, self-absorbed, materialistic, reward-driven, and egoic reaction, which is literally godlike. It is the highest of consciousness, and it's the highest of behavior, and it's the being able to be consistently, no matter what, selfless is achieving greatness. There's a quote that I read very recently. You don't treat bad people the way that they treat you, which is bad. You treat them the way that you are, which is good. And that's where this comes into play. That's the selfless life which only the greats can sustain and maintain over long years of practice and ambition to do this for no reward or gain or status, but for their own internal richness. Because if they're not being selfless, then they're being selfish. You can't be one or the other. You can't say here and then take it away. You can't give and take away. You can't be nice and then abuse people. Understand? Okay. Let's learn how to say this. Self. Very good. Selfish. Well, self-ish. Or selfish. Fish. I'm a fish. Very good. Or self-centered. Self-centered. Very good. Self-absorbed. Self-absorbed. Now, they're the negatives. The positive is selfless. Selfless. Very good. What are they in a basic terminology? So basically, in a simpler way, they're determining if you're good or bad. Selfless is good, selfish is bad. Selfless is non-identification to materialistic, selfish is identification to materialistic, and self is a lost person, basically. It's an identification of who you are based on what's around you, not internally. I am good is the word I am, which is consciousness. But self is the identification to an external thing. Statement, I am good to myself. Question, am I good to myself? Statement, I am not selfish. Question, am I selfish? Statement, I am selfless. Question, am I selfless? Alright, past, present, and future. I was good to myself. I am good to myself. I will be good to myself. Past, present, and future. They were selfish. Present, they are selfish. Future, they will be selfish. So past, present, and future. Past, I've always been selfless. Present, I am selfless. Future, I will always be selfless. So I know this one was long, guys. I'm not sorry because you need it. We all need moral philosophy and ethics because this is the most important things. We cannot expect the world to change if we do not. We are the titans that are asleep. The people itself needs to wake up and sustain and maintain consciousness. And learning these things are going to help the little voice in your head of right and wrong. It's going to help the universe, God, or whoever or whatever you believe in to succeed in its mission, which is you changing the world positively. So, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribed and hit that bell notification so you get updated. Every single Wednesday and Saturday is English with me, your favorite English professor. And on Sunday, we have Spiritual Sunday where I teach you a chapter out of my life program. All of this is absolutely free. We have some amazing things coming. I can't divulge them yet, but I'll just tell you they're biblical and epic. And what else do we have? Look after yourself, look after each other. I love you all. Learn and apply. Turn knowledge into wisdom and change the world and be morally and ethically good. You can do this. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Have a beautiful weekend.